our family has grown significantly.
Indeed.
But it's still a great family reunion. My favorite family reunion, you know.
It's my best part.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see what the 50th, what happens at the 50th. Like I'm excited.
How many people are they expecting? Just
I don't know.
Make your guesses
on the board,
now.
so I don't know. I'm thinking maybe like close to 7.
You know,
that's my
Kansas
guess.
City. Not that I'm biased or anything, but Kansas City is just such a great place to have a conference.
As NCECA celebrates 50 conferences, we think back to makers, mentors, and milestones that influenced our journeys.
One of the great gifts that we're given in life is to have mentors. And I think once you've been mentored, you want to play it forward, pass it on.
Joe is one of my mentors. Joe Bova was the first person I taught with, and he was such a gracious mentor. A lot of people, I remember students being afraid of you, Joe, because you are so well-read, well-spoken, and you have positive opinions, that they were a little wary of you. But you were always really gracious about power, and if someone else wanted to do something, you were never threatened. It was like, yeah, go ahead, do it. Yeah, you empowered people.
I go to as many lectures as I could. I go to the demos, I go see the shows, and I feel I've learned from so many people, whether I even knew them or not. I mean, knew them personally.
Larry Wolf, who was my 7th grade music teacher, was probably the most important person outside of my family in my young life. He was a music teacher. It wasn't ceramics, but without him, I wouldn't be here. I'm convinced that I wouldn't have graduated high school and that I wouldn't have had any self-esteem at all. And since one of the things that I do, I'm an educator, I think about what he did for me as often as I can, and I try to do that for other people.
I met Aurora when I was a very young ceramics student at University of Nebraska. As Aurora was talking about her own practice and her own studio, she kind of mentioned to all of the students that it takes her at least as much time administrating everything and doing paperwork and contacting people and doing correspondence as she got in the studio. And I remember thinking that sounded absolutely crazy, and it didn't take me very long until I got out of school and found out that she was probably understating things a little bit.
Well, the one thing that's interesting about it is you see your students here, or you bring your students, and then all of a sudden your students end up teaching. And that is really exciting to kind of see them grow up in this lifestyle that we've chosen, and they now have that same sort of passion about the material and the clay and teaching and educating other people.
I have to say that first off, Minerva was the biggest mentor coming into NCECA. I keep thinking about the year that I was very fortunate to have her direct me. I would have been completely lost without that.
So I feel like NCECA is a really important mentor as an organization for a lot of people, and thinking about that, all I have to do is think about my own NCECA experiences.
For 50 years, NCECA's creative community has mentored its members, while its members have shaped the Commons as well.
NCECA to me, it really is about, I think, the experience of bridging generations of education, learning, knowledge, objects, process. A really special piece of the NCECA conference is the knowledge that's shared, I think.
For me, NCECA is a conduit for facilitating opportunities for anybody that has a love and interest in the ceramic arts, and that meaning education being the forefront. And as an educator, it's a way for me to not only meet colleagues, like-minded people, and be able to exchange ideas and dialogues, but it's also a way to offer opportunities for my students to realize there's a greater world of people that show the same and similar interests and are making a living, being successful in all different spectrums, from teaching as professional artists, as vendors, industry, whatnot. And so that there is opportunities in this area.
last year in Milwaukee, I think 15 students came. I have an undergraduate program only, and I think it changed a lot of their lives. So some of them had gone to this just for the first time, and they get to see, I think, what the possibilities are for ceramics. And they come out of a, relatively small university and program, and maybe a protected life environment, and they come to something like this, and they meet people from all over the world. They go to panel discussions, demonstrations, and I think that it really offers them, from my perspective anyway, the opportunity to see how big ceramics can actually be in terms of the world.
We are bound through clay, connections, and creativity. The sense of commonality is initiated and returns each year throughout the conference. The conversations, experiences, and ideas that radiate from this annual event nurture us year-round. They are a source of friendship, collegiality, and so much more.
Where I teach is a relatively rural area, and the clay community in that part of New York, there is a clay community, but it's pretty spread out. So for me to have this opportunity to come and see the work that's done on the exhibitions and meet with friends and people and talk about, it's a way I've talked about new ideas. I've brought in a bunch of people based on meeting them at NCECA and then bringing them to my campus and doing visiting artist things or workshops and things like that. And I think without this kind of event, the conference itself, and even just the organization and sort of all the publications that go out, it would be much more difficult for me to get that kind of connection.
In just a few days, you could meet people with whom you had things in common, and you didn't realize you had things in common with them until you did meet them. And they were from all over the country. That helped to set up workshops and travel opportunities, going to different countries. It's just so expansive. It was like looking through one of those little lenses in an apartment door. It condenses everything, and then you open the door and there's this whole world.
Well, it's a social event. It's a major part, but it's also educational. I mean, I do enjoy going to a few of the presentations and whatever. So it's like Chuck lives way the hell out on the West Coast, and I live, on the East Coast. So there's a chance to get together wherever it is. So it's kind of, and to see Randy, I mean, you just don't always get together. You just don't do that.
Living in New York City, there are lots of galleries that have clay exhibitions, and my students have to see 3 a semester. That's a lot, but in many areas there are no clay shows. So when you come here and you see 18 clay shows, I mean, that's a real educational experience, and 50 lectures and demonstrations. I mean, you can't get any more intense than that. And you probably wouldn't want it any more than once a year because you couldn't handle it. There's too much information. You're on overload when you leave NCECA. When I go home, I take the NCECA bulletin, the program, and I start circling everyone's email and start writing down notes, what they're about, what are some of the cogent ideas that have come out of it. And then you have a year of homework to do, to follow up with some of the papers, the things that you want to follow up with, because you are stimulated, overly stimulated for a whole year.
Back in the early 90s, the first time I was ever walking down the hall at NCECA and somebody recognized me, it was like the coolest thing I ever experienced. And then within a relatively short time, maybe 3 or 4 years, I felt like I needed to start wearing a mask.
I've been going to NCECA since 1972. And when I went, I felt like I was the baby and everybody was grown up. And now I feel I'm grown up and they're all the babies.
We love to see our family of clay expand in scope and evolve in depth.
NCECA is a wonderful conference, and I'm happy to be a part of it even though I don't practice in ceramics. I think it's going to influence, my own personal practice by just showing me how to be a part of a community. There's nothing wrong with how they show themselves. I think it's beautiful. I think what they're doing here is really important.
I think that NCECA has been successful over the decades, bringing in voices. I think that the clay world is the clay education world, and the ceramics world is healthy. We've got people doing straight studio pottery. We've got really smart artwork being made out of clay.
And while we continue to look to the past and honor those who blazed those important trails, we are also mindful of the future of our field and our organization.
NCECA is such a gift to everybody.
It is.
And I think people don't realize that it doesn't just show up by magic, that it shows up because people have worked and gone to board meetings and made decisions and talked things out. And it was a really wonderful learning experience, and it did bond me to the people on the board forever.
What I would like NCECA to pay more attention to going forward is the voice of each new coming generation as we look to be more relevant, right? So we do all of these celebrations and we have this history and this tradition, and I think to maintain relevancy is going to be our most important and key thing that we can do.
So I think this is very interesting that you get to work with some very knowledgeable and passionate and creative people, but you also have to continually say goodbye and welcome new people and try and orientate them. And because we do represent such a creative class of individuals, there is a lot of initial impulse, I think, to create something new or make some kind of mark on the organization when one becomes the board member.
It's interesting watching the board migrate and change, and like I said, Steve's going to talk in a minute, but it's just really neat to see how you can let something go that you love and watch it continue to grow, and it doesn't have to be your child anymore, it's the next person's, and I think that's been the legacy or the history of the board, is that it passes on the baton from one to the next.
But at the end of a long, dirty, clay-filled day, we also know how to have a good time and enjoy ourselves and each other. And what's a long, dirty, clay-filled day without a long, dirty, clay-filled night?
I liked it when Paul Soldner streaked the dance.
At Denver?
I think it was Denver.
Well, I mean, like every time, right?
Yeah, every time.
Paul Soldner streaking through the convention was, how can you not, I mean, that was just so awesome.
Which time?
Oh, it was, the one I remember was Las Vegas. Yeah.
No wonder we love Las Vegas.
Yeah.
At the dance, he and a student ran onto the stage, buck naked, and the guards there, who are used to these scantily dressed dancers, ran on stage and covered them up, and they wanted to stop the dance. And I pled with them, and I said, don't stop the dance, otherwise you'll have a riot. Please let everybody have a good time. And they didn't, so everybody forgot about it and had a good time.
Streaking the dances.
I think we're probably about time to wrap, unless you guys.
Look at that huge watch, man.
That's my triathlon watch.
You gotta get in control the world with that thing. It's almost an Apple Watch.
I might be able to raise your hand.
I'm not even doing that. Put it down.
She has psychokinetic powers. That's how all this stuff gets done. She just sort of thinks.
I just sit there and think it done. That's it.